Hi there, everyone. It's Jen here from TarotSpirit.net. I'm here doing your weekly reading beginning September 17th. I apologize, I have a bit of a cold. I was waiting it out to see if it would get better, and I'm fine, but I apologize for the nasally sound and that I may need to blow my nose during these readings. Sorry, not very attractive, but okay, so reading for the week of September 17th, we have a new moon on the 20th, and in the northern hemisphere, it's the autumnal equinox on the 22nd, so that's pretty cool. All right, so why don't we just jump right in, and we will start with Aries. Hi there, Aries. I'm using the Arthurian Legend Tarot cards. Whoops, let's go with those. I hope you're doing well. Okay, lots of blue. All your cards have blue in it. So at the bottom of the deck is the Six of Swords. So when the Six of Swords comes up, there's probably something that you know on some level isn't working, but you may not have been able, it may not have come to the surface yet where you, there could be a little bit of denial, or you're still hoping it will work or trying to make it work. But on some level, you sort of know that it's futile, and just haven't gotten to the point where you've officially have acknowledged that you need to move on, whether it's from a relationship, a job situation, any sort of a friendship, a place that you frequent, or it could really be anything. Of course, these are general readings. So if there's something you've been struggling with and you're just kind of wondering if it's going to work out, or you've just been putting a lot of energy into it and it's just a negative situation and you just can't make it work no matter how hard you try, really start to consider moving on and what that would look like and how you can make that happen. We also have the universe. So this is a card about completions and new beginnings. So this will show up in a reading when sort of major milestones have been met, but also, having just read the Six of Swords, it can come up when things are coming to an end, whether you want them to or not, but they need to come to an end. The Six of Swords is like, this isn't healthy, this isn't working, it's not a good fit. It's time to move on. So you may start to begin the process of wrapping things up, if that makes any sense, and figuring out what you're going to do moving forward. So that can feel like a really negative situation sometimes, but it can be a very positive situation if you understand that you're going to be healthier and happier moving on, and that you're now allowing an opening for something new to come into your life. Now, when you do speak up, and usually you have to tell someone that you're moving on, this card reminds you to defend yourself without getting defensive. You don't over-explain. You don't need to really even explain yourself. So keep it short and sweet. Don't get sucked into an argument. No is a complete sentence. This isn't working for me. And you really can leave it at that. And people don't like that, because if you've been in this can be sort of an abusive situation too, or just a negative situation, the person you probably have to communicate that you're moving on to is probably part of the reason why, the situation has been negative. And that type of personality tends to want to get you upset, feed on your negative energy, argue, try to figure out a way to blame you or make you feel bad about it. So just be mindful that that could happen and be prepared for it. You know, you can prepare what you're going to say. Write down your thoughts. Role play with someone. I know it seems silly, but having gone through the motions and planned what you're going to say ahead of time can really help. And try to use I statements. Even if you're like, oh, I'm leaving because you're a jerk, you know, like that's the bottom line. If you approach it from a place of, I don't feel this is working out for me. And you can Google I statements. They're really, really hard. Like there's an art to them. So look it up, really plan what you're going to say, and then be okay with, you know, if they're going to go off and accuse you and try to make it about you and do kind of what they've been doing, which is the reason you're leaving in the first place, just know that, acknowledge it. Like you don't have to get sucked in. They can have the last word, but you're going to move on with things. And this act of letting go, this could also be letting go of a bad habit. Anything that you really need to let go of that you've been hanging on to that is not a positive situation. It's not adding anything to your life. It's just a constant drain on some level. All of a sudden your fortunes change, and it can seem like your fortunes are just changing, but give yourself credit for creating opportunities in your life. You can be the creator of opening up to new possibilities by not hanging on to negative ones that are not serving you and helping. Okay, thank you so much, Aries. Now onto the sign of Taurus. Thanks for joining me, Taurus. I'm using the Arthurian Legend Tarot by, I don't even have the box. I've had these for so long. I think Ferguson is the last name. I believe it's a woman that created these cards. Okay, Taurus, for the week of September 17th. Ooh, beautiful. Okay, I really am liking these. So at the bottom of the deck, you have this really practical, wonderful Queen of Pentacles or Queen of Shields in this deck. She knows how to make a house a home. She knows how to make it feel comfortable and inviting for everyone. She's grounded. She's down to earth. She's practical. She knows how to plan for the long term. She'll just slowly and steadily work at things. She doesn't need instant gratification. She knows if she just keeps working away, things will pay off. So, with her at the bottom, I'm sorry, I'm sick, so I just need to blow my nose. I'm sorry, that's so gross. I wanted to get these readings out for you. So what I'm seeing with the other cards we have here, we have the Five of Swords, the Fool, and the Justice card. So this is kind of similar to Aries, even though we have different cards. And this happens a lot where I get the same message. So I struggle with whether I should do individual ones for the weekly or just a general one. But I'm going to stick with the ones for each sign because I know people like that. I like it too because I'm an avid watcher of other people's tarot channels. So the Five of Swords, this is an interesting card because it's swords are thoughts. It's how we are perceiving and looking at things, thinking about things. And it for me, it's a card of conflict and drawing a line in the sand and how we resolve and deal with conflict. And, you know, there are a million different ways. We can draw a line in the sand. We can take our ball and go home. We can hang on to a lot of anger and resentment about situations that have happened in the past. So I feel like this week is a week where you may want to examine, like, where am I hanging on to something? Is hanging on to this for a long period of time healthy or helpful in my life? Because storing resentment and negativity that just bubbles up when there's a trigger, or we think of that, we think about that person, or other seemingly similar situations come up, and then we attach that old experience to the new experience when it may not be apples to apples. I think it causes a lot of more problems than we realize it does. So this might be a week to really think about, what am I hanging on to? Am I still thinking about that old boyfriend? Am I still thinking about that old boss? Am I still allowing this person to bother me? I'm still allowing that situation to creep into my thoughts. And there is a new moon on the 20th, and the autumnal equinox on the 22nd. So this would be a good time to make a new plan, like to let that go and make a new plan, to try to train yourself to think positively, and really do write it down, really do some sort of act to let go of something you've been hanging on to. Lighten your load, no longer carrying. The Fool has a light load. He has doesn't have much baggage. So getting rid of some old baggage you may have been carrying with you, because it weighs you. What does a lot of baggage do? It weighs you down. So figure out a healthy way to let go of some old resentments you may have been hanging on. And then things start coming more into balance. And, you don't feel so, you're not carrying so much negativity, so the scales can start to tip and get more balanced, and you're just going to feel better all over by letting go of resentment and negativity you may have been hanging on to. Just kind of moving in a new direction, taking your first steps to a new way of life, a new way of thinking about things, a new way of interacting with people. Try to do something different than how you've habitually dealt with things. And I'm not saying that other old situations are your fault. I just want to be clear about that. But regardless of whose fault it was, we still had our part to play in it, and we sure as heck don't want to keep carrying that with us any longer. Okay, thank you so much. And now we're on to the sign of Gemini. Hi there, Gemini. Thanks for joining me. I hope you're doing well. I apologize, I'm a little sick, so... Whoops. The Seven of Shields. The Sun card. And the Death card. Nice. And Six of Shields. Okay. So major arcana and earth energy for you guys. So for Gemini, so at the bottom of the deck is the Six of Shields. And this is a card about give and take. And so when this comes up, maybe you may want to look at relationships and situations this week and see where maybe you're giving too much, or you're maybe taking too much. So in relationships, you could just sort of reassess, like, am I the one always doing sort of everything? or have I really been relying too heavily on my partner? And maybe something has been going on where you have to, which is fine. There should be that give and take. So it may just be like, if you've really had to lean on your partner or someone at work, that you say, hey, I just want to acknowledge that I realize that you've really had to pick up the slack. And I just want you to know I see it and I really appreciate it. And when things get less busy, or if you're in need, please come to me, because and it's not that like I owe you, but it's like, hey, I'm here for you too in that other way. So I'll try to be on the lookout for it, but don't be afraid to come to me if you think maybe now I could help you out in some way. And at the minimum, acknowledging it. And if in some way you feel like, you consistently do more, everything's always up for renegotiation. So you could say to your partner, for example, it's going to be different for everyone. I would kind of like to look at sort of the tasks that happen around the house or whatever in our lives. And I'm feeling a little overburdened or a little overwhelmed. Could we talk about, can we look at all the things that we do around the house? And, you may do that and realize, oh, they do a lot more than I thought they did. You know what I mean? But you can always renegotiate these things. And if you come from a kind place and not you lazy jerk, you never do anything, it could be a really positive thing. So you have the Seven of Pentacles, and this sort of piggybacks on that in the sense that it's like sometimes things are a process, and sometimes we're going through things and they just take as long as they take, and we can't hurry them up, and we can't make them be any different than that. The moon cycle takes, I don't even know how long, 28 days, something like that. And that's just the way it is. Like, it takes a certain amount of time, and you can't get angry at the moon for taking longer. It's just a waste of energy. So patience will be required this week. And then there's also the other part there. I'm seeing two sides. I guess I'm reading for Gemini. So there are two sides, right? For Gemini, that if something takes a certain amount of time and it's way past that time, acknowledge that, and there is a time to wait and allow things to take its course, and then there's a time to say, I've waited for this situation long enough, and it's probably just not happening, and then you need to look at it that way. You have these two really amazing major arcana. The Death card, I love the Death card because it means you're transforming your life. And I feel like by weighing those things we just talked about and making adjustments depending on the answers you get when you look at your own life and situations, by either being more patient with things that require more patience, or letting go of things that you've given ample time to work out, you're going to just really have a lot of energy back. It's like you're not going to be wasting energy on worrying about why is this taking so long, or why, you're going to be like, okay, that's just taking as long because that's as long as it takes, or I've been more than patient, and now I need to move on from that and let it go. And you're really seeing things more clearly by taking the time to go through this exercise of this thought process of thinking, is it an adequate amount of time? Is it too much time? And making decisions. And it may be sort of transformative in your life. It kind of is going to be an aha moment for you. Like, I have waited more than long enough for this. It's time to move on. In a job, if they, oh, there's room for advancement here, and you are a good worker and you've been there 5 years and you haven't gotten jack, it's time to move on to someone or some situation that's going to appreciate it. And again, this doesn't mean you're not giving people a chance or having realistic expectations or waiting an appropriate amount of time, but it's sort of relieving you from staying in situations that are a dead end. Oh, death. Okay, sorry. Now, on that note, on to the sign of Cancer. Hi, Cancer. How are you? Hope you're doing well. I apologize. I have a little bit of a cold. So I apologize. I might have the sniffles a little bit. The kids are back in school, little germ factories. So let's take a deep breath. Let's pull these. 3 of Shields, 9 of Shields, nice. 3 of Swords. Okay. At the bottom of the deck is the Lovers card. And when the Lovers comes up, it's obviously a card that does pertain to true love, truly committing yourself to another person or situation. And then everything, though, that comes with a significant commitment. I mean, this could even be any sort of commitment contract where you're making a commitment, and with that comes responsibilities. And so the lesson of the Lover's card is, are you honoring your commitments? Because it's one thing to just sign on the dotted line or say I do at the wedding, but it's another thing to honor that commitment day in, day out, moving forward. So it may be a week for you to examine that. What have I committed to? Sorry, I have a necklace that's knocking on the thing. What have I committed to? And am I honoring those commitments? Am I making choices that show that I'm honoring those commitments? Or am I showing up late for work? Am I going out with my friends more often than I'm hanging out with my partner? Am I spending time with my kids? Am I, so you just have to look at your own commitments and see, how you're doing. It's good to check in and see how you're doing. But at the same time, people that you're in a commitment with, or situations that you have a commitment with, are they honoring the commitment as well? And it doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, if they're not, screw them, you're out of there. But it could mean, we do want to strive. I find it very difficult to be mature people. And what would a mature adult do if someone didn't seem to be honoring their commitments? They would have a mature, calm conversation about it. And it's so hard. I feel like what we do is the resentment build up, and oh my God, this is what I do. We make passive aggressive remarks, and that's kind of like, I think, the reality of what we do. But what we should do is, hey, I wanted to talk to you about this because I come from I statements. I'm feeling from my perspective this. And I just wanted to have a conversation about it because I don't know, maybe you're feeling that way about other things as well. So be open if you're sharing some constructive criticism with someone else, that you may hear some things back. And so be prepared to react the way you want them to react. It's interesting. We have two threes here. We have the Three of Pentacles and the Three of Swords. There could be some jealousy going on. I'm going to say that you feel like someone's going out with group from work, and maybe, if your partner is a male and they're into women, like there's a lot of women there, or you hear them talking about a woman at work a lot or something. So there could just be something that comes up this week that makes you feel jealous. I feel like it could revolve around work. So jealousy is an interesting thing. Why are you feeling jealous? Do you have a lack of trust because of a past relationship? Or is this person really throwing up some red flags that you haven't paid attention to? And so, I don't know. Not all the time, but most of the time, if I feel jealous in a relationship, there's been a reason for it. But some people are just very jealous by nature, and so you're going to have to do some soul searching about that. Is this situation working out? Is this work situation working out? Is this relationship working out? Or is everyone honoring their commitments? Now, what's kind of striking me is this is usually a card that shows three people in it, and it's usually in a work situation. It's usually someone doing a craft. You have like the person doing the work, the person reading the plans, and then like someone supervising or watching the whole thing. But it can also be, usually they're doing a piece of a more creative and artistic thing. So it can be, to me, someone discovering your talent and creativity. I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but I can get a lot of different messages. She's spending, so you may want to take some time alone. And spend some time and just sort of think about these concepts of commitment and why you're feeling this way and why would you feel this way in this situation. Is there a red flag? Is it something you're carrying from past relationships? You have this gorgeous Nine of Shields. I love this card. It's one of my favorite cards. I'm going to do a video on my favorite cards. And this is... This card is about honoring your commitments, actually, really. So if she says she's going to get up early, it's usually female, so it could be get up early and work out before work. She gets up and does it, and she derives so much confidence from that because she knows she can count on herself. Lots of times we're jealous and worried about other people keeping their commitments because we ourselves, we can't rely on ourselves, so we project that onto someone else. So if you're sort of feeling jealous, feeling out of sorts, worrying about someone else, turn that on yourself and say, am I honoring my own commitments to myself first? And then am I honoring and then worry about what other people are doing towards you. Because if you start, you're going to be a less jealous person if you feel confident in yourself, because you're going to be like, I'm secure. I know I can count on myself. I don't need the validation in someone else in my life for my happiness and my security. So if someone was stepping out or doing something, I don't feel this panic to hold on to them because I can stand on my own. Okay, I'm going to keep moving on because this is getting super long. All right, on to the sign of Leo. Hi there, Leo. Thank you so much for joining me. Whew. Take a deep breath. This one wants to come out. The Hierophant, the universe, the world, and the Queen of Cups. Okay. So at the bottom of the deck, we have the Seven of Wands. I don't want to hold the whole deck. My hands are starting to hurt. The Seven of Spears or Wands comes up, and this is the energy of, I'm going to use the word explaining where we're coming from. Because it's not about being defensive. It's about an energy of being able to be assertive without being aggressive or defensive. So if there's a situation, and it's at the bottom of the deck, so if I feel like there's a situation that where you feel like you need to say something, stick up for yourself, call out something at work that's not cool, take a stand about something, and you're struggling with how to do that because it's a fine art and it's very difficult. And sometimes no matter how well you handle it and you articulate what's going on, a person's not going to take it well. And honestly, usually the people you have to stand up to are the people that you're stressing about are the people that aren't going to take it well. And that's probably why you're stressing out about it. So I do feel that something is going to come to an end. You're going to have to put an end to something, but it's just ending something that's probably more on the negative side. If you have to feel like you have to stand up for yourself or say something, you're ending a situation, and then this beautiful universe card is like, yeah, but here comes an opportunity. Now, you have this whole world of possibilities ahead of you. So letting go of something is not necessarily a negative thing at all. It just allows an opening in the universe for something new to step in. You're going to gain a lot of wisdom from this situation. You're going to gain a lot of insight into how you've reacted and dealt with things like this in the past, and be able to move forward with more confidence and wisdom because you're learning how to deal with things more effectively and not allow it to get you defensive and worried and stressed and have all this anxiety. It's like, oh, no is a complete sentence. And, you just you don't have to over explain yourself. You don't have to explain yourself. It's like, this isn't working. You know why it's not working. Is the person really open to feedback? You have to read the room, as they say, right? And figure it out. So you're going to figure out how to read the room better. You're going to figure out that less is more. And moving on is just going to actually allow more opportunities in. And you're going to feel better. I mean, she feels her feelings, but doesn't let them overpower her. She's not going to get defensive. She's like, oh, I'm not feeling great emotionally. This doesn't feel good, but I'm going to sit with it and deal with it, and I'm not going to act on it. That's the beauty of the Queen of Cups. She's what's the word? She's in control. Of her emotions. I guess that's not what I want to say, but that's all. My mind goes blank sometimes in these readings. Okay, so on to the sign of Virgo. Hi there, Virgo. Thank you for joining me. Today I'm using the Arthurian Legend Tarot by, I think it's Anna Ferguson. I can't remember. It's Ferguson, I think is her last name. Everyone take a deep breath. The Hanged Man. Strength card. A lot of major arcanas are coming out. You got all... Oh my god, you got all literally, even the bottom of the deck, all major arcana cards. Okay, so this might be a big week for Virgo. The Emperor at the bottom of the deck. It's asking you, are you the leader in your own life? Do you make decisions that at the end of the day are truly what you want? I feel like this is saying that in the past you have made decisions and gone down paths to make other people happy, to try to impress other people, to do what you feel you should do versus what you want to do. Now, did I really want to go to college? I mean, well, I did, but do I love school? No, but I knew that it's something that would benefit me and I did. So I'm not necessarily talking about things like that. But what if you wanted to be an artist and you ended up going to college and doing computer science because your parents told you that was the smart way to go, where you wanted to go do an art school or do an apprenticeship or something like that. Like that truly was in your heart. Have you dated people because you think that's what other people think, that it would look good to other people? Things like that. So just think about that and sit with that. I feel like there's going to be some contemplation, and maybe you have in the past not been the leader in your life. Allow other people to control you. And instead of getting down on yourself and sort of furthering that negative feeling about yourself, you can say, oh, I have been doing some things, or I have done some things in the past that I felt pushed to do. I felt like I had to do. But now I'm going to realize that the decisions I make are ones that I have to live with. Not my father, not society, not, what my friends think, but I really need to make decisions for me. And this isn't being selfish. This is knowing that I'm the one that has to live with the consequences. It's the people who push you, I think, are so vocal and pushy the most, that are the first ones, if something they push, guess you have to do it still, but really strongly pushed you into, and they're the first ones to go, hey, well, you were the one that did it. Psh, hands off, like, psh, sorry, you didn't have to listen to it. So make sure, so when you start looking at things that way, like, hey, I need to, make decisions based on me. And it takes a lot of strength, and you can feel very vulnerable, because then it's sometimes, if you do things because, well, they told me to, well, then you're sort of removing responsibility. So if it doesn't work out so well, well, they made me do it. But then you're not being accountable. So this is like, if you're stepping out and you're maybe going against the grain a little bit about what people think you should be doing, or society thinks you should be doing, you're really on the line for the consequences. And the emperor is always on line for the consequences, and he can't please everyone. And he understands that, and he has the strength to make the hard decisions, or make the decisions, even if he knows that some people are going to be disappointed, and he's prepared for that. So this is a real awakening for you, to really step into your own, take responsibility for things, take responsibility for your actions, take a leadership role in your life, and be in charge, and make some decisions, even if they go against what other people want you to do. And it's going to be a new way of life, and it's going to be a really, really positive. It's going to open up. You're going to feel like this realization. It's like, oh my God, I can do whatever I want. I can have whatever kind of job I want. I can live wherever I want. Like, I don't have to be controlled by this box I've allowed myself to be put in anymore. But I do have to start taking a responsibility for what I do. And that's part of growing up. Okay, on to the sign of Libra. How are you, Libra? Thanks for joining me. Virgo just had an interesting reading. They got all 4 cards were major arcana. So everyone want to take a deep breath. Any message? These are general readings, so very likely, maybe nothing I say will apply. Although usually the tarot cards are a tool of self-discovery, so even if it doesn't apply exactly to your situation going on now, it could apply to something in the past, and there's always room for contemplation with tarot cards for self-improvement. So even if it's not resonating right at this minute, you can look back and say, oh, there was a situation where that in the past, and how did I deal with that, and such. Okay, Libra. Ooh, at the bottom of the deck is this beautiful 10 of Shields. So this is a week where if you've been putting things off, like, oh, I really should start I really should open a retirement account. I really should up my retirement contribution. I really need an advance directive at the local hospital. I really should do a will. I need to start saving for college. I need to start saving for a house, any sort of those things you've been putting off. It's time to do it. It's one of those things. It never feels like a good time, or you always feel like you have tons of time. But it's something I would suggest that if that resonates with you, you just make an appointment. You figure it out. You download the forms, whatever you need to do, and get it done. It's time to take care of it this week. It's also a card about legacy, and when you're no longer here, what legacy are you leading? What will people say about you? What do you want people to say about you? And then, am I really leading my life that's what people would say about me? Or am I, how is that idea of legacy against the reality of how you're living your life? So it's not maybe the most fun concept to think about, but I think it's a very valuable one. Someone may be dealing, and this is something that would have happened, dealing with someone that had passed, and maybe some inheritance, or maybe you're a house sold and you're cleaning out a barn, or things that can bring up maybe you're reminiscing, and this could be, again, someone from the past. And I feel like for a select few of people, perhaps there was never the closure you wanted. So this may be a week where you want to try to find a way to make, just a minute, Ralphie, find a way to examine those things that are inherited to, Ralph's not going to let me wait. Just a second, please. Ralphie, I'm doing readings, man. Go lay down, okay? I'll be with you in a minute. All right, it's my dog. So, what are the family legacies? What are the things that are passed down from generation to generation? And maybe it's time to stop some of those. Maybe some parts of the family legacy weren't so great. And just to think about, okay, I can break the cycle. I'm the one that's broken the cycle. But in order to truly break the cycle, I have to let the negativity go. I have to release it at some point and be able to put it in a frame of mind that doesn't keep hurting me today in the present. You know, it's like at some point I have to figure out a way to release it and move forward and let some of that go. This card is asking you to honor what you love to do. Find time, make time to do things that bring you, that feed your soul, that bring you pleasure, that when you're doing it, you're completely present and not worrying about other things. It may be something that you used to do as a child, or maybe it's something that you let go because somehow there was a bad association with it. That's something that happened in your past. And it's time to bring it back in. It's time to let go of maybe a negative reason why you let it go in the past. Let the resentment go. Bring the thing you love to do back in. I'm not sure if I'm getting this message across right, but and then we have this high priestess. So yeah, it's like there's something like that's just been below the surface. That's just been right there. And some of it is like sorry, I'm having trouble communicating this. Some of it is hanging on to resentment or tolerating or allowing negative family legacies, whether it's yours or someone else's, continue and allowing to be a participant. And then part of it is allowing something in that's positive but had something negative attached to it, and letting the negative go and bringing the positive in. If I'm not sure I'm communicating that well, I apologize if it's not coming through. So that's a kind of an interesting reading that's coming up for you guys. Probably won't resonate with a lot of you, but it was a message that came through for someone. So, okay, now we're on to the sign of Scorpio. How are you, Scorpio? Hope you're doing well. So everyone just take a deep breath. And I'm reading with the Arthurian Legend Tarot. I think it's like Anna K. Ferguson. Because Anna K is another, I can't remember. I think it's Ferguson, the last name, and I believe it's a woman who made these cards. The Death card. I love the Death card. The Death card is you, actually. It's Scorpio's card. The Hierophant. The Six of Wands. Nice. And the King of Cups. So here you are at the bottom of the deck. He's sitting on this rock and he's fishing, but he's contemplating. He's near the water, but he's not in the water. But he's fishing. He's seeing if he gets any bites. Like he's sort of casting his line out there. So I feel like maybe some of you are cautious. And for those of you that have maybe gotten hurt in relationships or situations, it's time this week. Like it's right under the surface. You maybe haven't been able to admit it or go there, but I feel like it's coming up. Like it's time to dip your toe back in the water, to put yourself out there again, to test the waters, see if anything bites. So if you're single and you got hurt in the past, it's time to get out there. It's time to start dating. It's time to at least start really thinking about it. Maybe talk to your friends about it. Let people know that maybe you're ready to get back in there. And remember, there's no guarantee of how a relationship's going to go. There's no guarantee of how a job's going to go. You don't know often until you're actually living through a situation how it's going to turn out. And I know it's like, wow, I really missed all those red flags. How did I end up in a relationship with someone that treated me so terribly? And I think, okay, that's going to happen. You're going to end up in a relationship with someone that's not good for you, or it's not a good match. But this time you're going to be able to identify it, and you're going to trust yourself because you're going to make a commitment that you're not going to stay. That's the difference. I'm in it a year and a half, and now I'm seeing the true colors, or I'm getting it, or I'm realizing, oh, the honeymoon's over and there's not enough substance here. Then you're going to move on. You're not going to stay. You're not going to feel like you have to stay because you're lonely or you're afraid to be on your own or anything. So when you start looking at relationships and things, situations, it could be applied to anything in that way. It's transformative because then you're gaining wisdom from past situations instead of hanging on to resentment and fear about past situations. Okay, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? And moving forward, I'm going to trust myself that I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to leave the resentment and the guilt and I'm going to stop berating myself for being so stupid for getting in that situation. No, I'm going to say, hey, it happened. That's life. And I'm taking the wisdom from it and I'm moving forward. And I'll just deal with what comes next. And there's no guarantee, but look, you're a winner. You're successful that way because of how you're approaching it, how you're looking at it, how you're going to deal with it. It isn't about, I need a guarantee this is going to work out well. It's, I'll be able to deal with it however it does work out. And I'm not going to allow myself to stay in a situation. But I'm not going to be gun shy and not go there in the first place either, because I know I can trust myself. And then, yeah, maybe something else will happen. Well, I'll learn a new lesson this time and figure it out, take some time to heal. I'm always strong and can be on my own, and then I can try again. So that's a successful strategy in sort of any area of your life that you're figuring out this week. Okay, on to Sagittarius. Hello, my fellow Saggies. How are you? I hope you're well. This day is flying by. I didn't feel well yesterday, so it was kind of a walk. Oh, this one wants to come out. Unfortunately, no, it's fine. Whoa. Really, it's interesting. I didn't expect that. Wow. I think we got crazy cards last week. Oh, okay. 3 not so wonderful cards on the table. But we have the Justice card. Okay? So I want you to focus on the Justice card because things are going to be brought into balance. Okay? I always say rights are going to be wronged. Wrongs are going to be made right. This has to happen in order to get here. Okay, so it's kind of like, I'm not saying everyone here is going to get divorced, but just using this as an example, you have to go through the process of getting a divorce in order to get to the other side and have a, have gotten away from a situation that didn't work out. You have to go through the process of getting a divorce, which isn't always fun. I've been there. In order for things to be brought into balance, yeah, like something needs to be walked. I noticed the Eight of Cups. You need to let something go. Now, this card it's like something. When the Eight of Cups comes up, this came up, I think last week's reading. It can be like the lottery. You've put so much of yourself into something, and you just keep thinking, oh, if I just love them more, if I just keep pouring more into these cups, pouring more of myself in the situation, it's got to pay off because I have so much in me now. I have so much money in the slot machine. It's got to pay off. And usually, we'll use an example of maybe you're in a situation with a narcissist or something, or with anyone. You do get little payoffs. Just a little, just enough, and just at the times when you're usually like, I'm done, you get a little payout, a little bit, just to say, oh, okay, maybe it's going to be okay. So you have to be self-aware enough to understand when, if you were only going to this is having very clear boundaries and being able to respect yourself, that you will stick to these boundaries. Like, I've put $100 in my slot machine. I said I was going to spend $100 and no more, and it's time to walk away. And you need to trust yourself to head out the door. And this is the same thing that needs to happen in relationships, in any sort of situation. Like, hey, this has gone beyond my boundaries and my limit, and it's time to move on. I am not going to keep pouring any more energy and depleting myself for little to no reward. And if you haven't been able to do that, so the fives come up, I can just read them together. When there's friction, when there's tension, it's like a pebble in your shoe. Even if it's not a big thing, you have to stop and get that pebble out of your shoe, because it's enough to be irritating and can pain and even, whatever, you need to it's enough that you have to deal with it. It draws your attention. You can't just ignore it. So there is something that you just can't ignore anymore. And it can be hard to let go. Again, that you've put so much into this job, into this relationship, into this friendship, into this situation, into trying to make it work. It's very, very hard to say, well, mate, but I think it's going to get better. Someone's promising you something. And it's just like, no, it's not. Like, where's your limits? And if you are not able to come to that Eight of Cups realization on your own, the Tower comes in. And it just forces you to have to see it. So you can acknowledge this energy of the Tower and be like, okay, what have I gone over my limit with? What situation? It doesn't have to be a huge situation. It doesn't have to be like your whole life. Where have I passed the limit? Where have I put, said I was going to put $100 in, and I'm up to 500, and I need to stop and walk away. And it can also be internal things. Like, I said I would never let my weight get over this because it's unhealthy, not because I'm being superficial, but I said I was never going to be over 200 pounds again, and I'm at 205. Hey, this is the wake-up call. And once we've had this realization, this breakthrough, so it can be a breakdown, but this is Jim Carrey's thing. He sees breakdowns as breakthroughs, and I really like that, because until we really brought it to the surface and let it come out and acknowledged it, we wouldn't have been able to change it. So it's time to really acknowledge the things that aren't working, and sometimes we don't want to say, oh, I've put $2,000 into this slot machine and I said I was going to stop at 100, because it can be humiliating and it can be embarrassing. But once you've had that jolt where, you're like, damn, what am I doing? Things are just going to get better from there. And so everything up to this point wasn't working. It wasn't sustainable. You just can't keep putting money. We don't have endless amounts of money. You just can't keep, as a metaphor, we don't have endless amounts of things to just give and give and give and give and give if it's not working out. So really look at where your limits are, and then things come into balance in all areas. So thank you so much, Sag Capricorn. Thank you for joining me today. Everyone take a deep breath. Hope you're doing well. Page of Wands, the first sign to get the Page of Wands. King of Wands, one of my favorite kings. And the Nine of Wands, all Wands, and the Five of Swords. So when I see the Five of Swords in a reading, it comes up and it's a card about how you're looking at your perception of a situation. So, for example, and this is just an example, but whatever this may jog in your memory, say you've been in a bad relationship or in a bad job situation where you hated it and you want out, but for whatever reason, you just can't bring yourself to leave the person, get a new job. So it's a situation where your friends are don't even want to hear you piss and moan about it, because it's just they're yeah, leave him, get a new job. It's and maybe you don't even realize it, but everyone's just oh my God, just move on, people. And then all of a sudden you get fired, or that person dumps you. Now all of a sudden you're oh, it's a totally different, oh, I was a great worker and I love that person, so it's a perception thing. Drawing a line in the sand and then being pissed when someone walks away, or someone who's always crossed the line crosses it again, and just being oh, how could that happen? Being surprised for someone acting the way they've always acted. And so we can always turn things on ourselves. Yes, people shouldn't ignore your boundaries. People shouldn't continue to treat you like crap, but we have the choice of how we deal with it, situations we stay in, how our perceptions, how we think about the situation. So if you're in sort of a negative situation, or have had some sort of negative situation, sort of try to look at it from a few different angles. Because I think you're going to find out why was I hanging on to that? Why was I hanging on to something that was clearly, and I read this card a little different. I mean, things are just crash and burn. It wasn't working. So now why am I sort of glorifying it or acting like it was good when I complained about it for the last 2 years? It didn't work. It crashed and burned. And once you can sort of stop channeling your energy into sort of this negative, and this could just be something small. So this isn't your whole life and you're I'm not that negative person. Well, just, is there some spot, and maybe it doesn't resonate now. Has this situation happened in the past? Maybe you've already learned this lesson. Good for you. I read the tarot obsessively because I'm hoping someday some of this I'll actually, take for myself and learn the lessons. But it's okay, I'm going to stop this page. He directs his energy to things he's passionate and excited about. And he's not going to spend his energy on things that he's truly not passionate about and isn't worthy of his time and energy. He's just not going to do that. Sometimes you get into situations and the conflict can sort of make things they can be bad, but then when they sort of get resolved for a little bit, there's this relief and kind of this excitement, or the makeup sex type thing. And it sort of, in a false way, keeps the excitement and the passion alive, but it's false. It's fear-based. Like, oh, am I going to lose it? Oh, I didn't. Oh, yay. That words, when you start to move towards the King of Wands, it's not an artificial high. He's able to maintain his passion and energy and motivation by keeping his head straight and directing his energy towards things that he's truly passionate about and that are truly worthy of his energy. So I think that's the message that's coming through. Okay, on to Aquarius. I'm trying to write down the timestamps. Okay, Aquarius. Hi, Aquarius. How are you? Thank you for joining me. Everyone take a deep breath. I feel like I need a lot of deep breaths this week. I think those want to come out. Ooh, 2 of Cups. Whoops. King of Cups. You're going to get a bonus card too. 4 of Shield. Magician. Oh, and this was just out for Capricorn. So the Page of Wands, he's passionate, he's creative, he's energetic, he's motivated, like he's an exciting new beginning. Something you hear about something where you're really like, this sounds good. This gets me fired up. This gets my juices flowing. This is something I'm really excited about. So message or communication. You may get asked. So we have the 2 of Cups. So you may get asked out by someone that interests you. Maybe you need to ask someone out. But it's like you feel like you've really found a connection. It could be with a water sign, but he's an emotionally mature man. He can be a healer or someone in a profession that's serving people, helping people, a nonprofit, something like that. Something that deals with something that people have an emotional investment in. But connecting with someone who gets your passion, connecting with someone in a business adventure. The Page of Wands is an entrepreneur, finding a good match, finding a complement, finding a partnership, and it can even be a situation that just fits, that's right. Like, this is the house, this is the, it can be anything where you're just like, this feels like home, this is right. This is going to happen. But for a lot of you, if you're looking for a relationship, it can be a relationship. It could be a new emotional beginning in a relationship. As you're moving into this new situation, be very clear about your boundaries. And this doesn't have to be, setting boundaries is really tough. It can come across as harsh or like, I wasn't going to do that, accusatory. So there is an art to setting boundaries. I'm not sure I can give you examples because I don't know if I'm so good at it. But if it comes from a place of it's all about the delivery. I think you've heard of I statements, like instead of saying, I don't want you to do this, like, I get anxious, and it may just be me, I get anxious when blah, 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 blah. And so it comes from a place from you and not accusing someone else of something. But just be really clear moving forward into this relationship or the situation, because the honeymoon period can be super great, that you're not communicating boundaries and your needs in the beginning because it's so great and it seems so well. So make sure if you take a new job, you don't need to say, oh yeah, I'll come in on every weekend. Like, be careful. Play it cool. Play it cool. Give it time to develop. That's what I want to say. These 2 cards together are really spot on for entrepreneurship, starting a new job, starting a new way of life, starting whatever you want to do, whatever you're passionate about, finding a new passion, getting into a new something you're really interested in. You have the tools to manifest the life you want, to manifest a life where you have lots of passion and energy and excitement, and you're creative, and you get up every morning and you're just excited to take on the day instead of going through the motions. And whether that's finding a job that really fits and excites you, or a partnership or relationship, or where you live, or whatever, it's just up to you to harness that energy and make it happen. Okay, thank you. Let's move on to Pisces. How are you, Pisces? Thank you so much for joining me. Let's take a deep breath. Feeling like breathing exercise. I keep breathing exercises or something are helpful this week. I hope you're doing well. Using the Arthurian Legend Tarot. These two look like they want to come out. Ooh, Aquarius just had the Two of Cups and the Star card. Oh, I think you may have hit the jackpot this week, Pisces. So at the bottom of the deck is Temperance. And the Temperance card is all about bringing things back into balance, finding the right mix and match. So the right work-life balance, the right balance with your partner, with your own interests, your kids, finding a way to balance that so you don't feel like you're working too much, or you're expending too much energy in one place. I think with the Temperance card, you have to realize is that nothing's ever perfectly in balance. And if you try for perfection, and you may be working a little more, and sometimes there are phases where now if you're always working too much, that's where the Temperance card is like, are there places where you're just chronically out of balance? And if there are, how can you bring that back into balance? You have some pretty spectacular cards here. So the Two of Cups is a card about emotional balance between two people. Finding these two people complement each other. They support each other. They balance each other out. For lack of a better word, we'll keep with the balance theme. They're looking out for each other. They have each other's back. He's looking that way, she's looking this way. And they're going through it together. So this can be finding the right job situation where you feel like you have a lot to offer, and you also feel like your employer values you and gives you meaningful opportunities. Now, if you had been hurt in the past, if you've had bad situations in the past, things are coming back into balance. You are healing. You are feeling hopeful again. So if anyone's had bad situations and there's in bad relationships in the past, if you've met someone new, it's time to let go and heal from that old one, and maybe step out and try something new. If you've gone through a tough patch with a partnership, things are healing. You guys are finding your way back to each other and finding a way to get back to balance, to get on the same side, to support each other and find each other again. If you had situations, so jobs, friendships, any could be anything, whatever comes to mind, that maybe haven't worked out in the past, like things from the past are healing, and you're able to be open to new opportunities. You're imagining what it would be like to be in love again, to be with someone, to go after the job of your dreams, to dream, to change careers, to move. Like you're putting yourself out there. You're going for your dreams again. You're going for things that you may have set aside because a situation transpired that really sort of made you gun shy, and you're ready to go out there. So if you've put a dating profile up, if you've, I was dating myself, I was going to, like, if you put in a personal ad, like in the newspaper, yeah, if you put your, put up a profile on a dating site, if you're applying for jobs, if you're looking for houses, apartments, looking to move, whatever it is, you started to put yourself out there again. Messages are going to be coming in. Again, for those of you who are looking for love, who are opening up to love again, watch out. Be prepared that it may throw you off balance. You may feel like, oh, I'm healed, I'm in balance, I'm ready for something new. And when this card comes up, you may feel like, oh shit, I don't know if I'm ready for this. So be careful not to self-sabotage just because you're feeling the feels, right? And it may be overwhelming. It doesn't mean you have to go out of control with it. Trust yourself to be good and to not go too fast and to just see where it goes. Any new job opportunities, put yourself out there. Any offers, these are really good cards. I mean, there are no guarantee in anything, but these are saying, hey, take this opportunity, see where it goes, jump on board, and go for the ride and see how it turns out, because these are some super positive cards. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a lovely week. Take care.